Today, we're going to be talking about how wide receivers can win versus off-man coverage. So this first route we're looking at here is from DK Metcalf, and he is going to be running a 10 to 12-yard dig when a DB is sitting inside shade, off coverage about maybe like 7 to 8 yards. So how would you go about running this route? So Metcalf runs this perfectly by attacking this DB's outside shoulder and outside hip to flip him and giving himself some space to slip underneath him and spacing for the quarterback most importantly. So anytime that we have a DB who's in off coverage, it's just like press coverage. We spent a lot of time on this channel talking about press coverage and reading a DB's leverage, his shade. So in this case, his leverage is inside. That means that he's just simply lined up to the inside of us. And his goal with that leverage, whether he's 1 yard away, whether he's 7 to 8 yards away, is to stop the wide receiver from running an inside breaking route, like a post, like a dig, like a slant, right? So when he's sitting inside shade like this, a lot of wide receivers, when they have to run an inside breaking route, their game plan is, oh, I'm going to attack the midline of the DB. I'm going to stem him to the inside, attack his inside shoulder, maybe try to attack his toes. But the second you start to run at this DB's leverage, he is going to keep his leverage. He's going to do something called a weave because his goal, again, is to not get beat to the inside. So what our objective needs to be is we need to try to split this DB in half the opposite way. I want to try to attack his outside shoulder and his outside hip, and the goal would be to get him to open up his hips and think that we are running a fade route. So Metcalf off the ball, obviously he's got an advantage. He's a freak athlete. He's huge. Super tall, great speed. So he's a vertical threat as soon as the ball is snapped. A lot of wide receivers, though, obviously aren't built like this. So we have to do that with my stride, my speed, and my body language. Everything about my body language, everything about my strides going at his outside shoulder need to sell like I'm trying to run past him. Because that's the only way that I'm going to get this DB to open up. And it's not even so much about just like taking really long strides or being hunched over with your upper body. It's about the frequency. You see how Metcalf at the start of the route is upper body? It's the exact same when it's at the end of the route. You should be able to take a photo of yourself within the first 5 yards of the route and a photo of yourself at 12 to 15 yards downfield, and it should be the exact same in the respect to your upper body and with the respect to your strides. Don't overdo it. Don't be hunched over. Don't take super long strides, but it's got to be the same, because that's the only way that this DB will believe that it's a fade. And then we could ultimately slip underneath and have spacing on this play. Because guys, remember, spacing is the most important thing. My routes have to be realistic. And we're going to go over a bunch of different off-man coverage situations, a bunch of different off-man coverage routes, but spacing is always most important. Because imagine if the play concept was like a double dig concept, for example, right? And let's say on this double dig, the outside receiver got that inside shade off man coverage, but he tries to stem inside, that DB keeps his leverage, and your dig route ends up all the way over on the slot. That's not good spacing. One defender could cover two routes, and that's on us as a wide receiver, guys. So make sure any type of inside breaking route, off man coverage, inside shade, we're attacking that outside shoulder and outside hip when that DB is sitting around our break point. So now, second situation here is going to be another inside shade off man coverage situation, and we're going to be going over this out route from Claypool. But before we get into this, you guys, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to improve your skills this offseason, check out that very first link in the description below for our elite wide receiver training package. What it is, you'll get access to 8 weeks of daily on-field route running, press release, catching workouts for wide receivers, and you'll get access to an 8-week daily training schedule for wide receivers in the gym, breaking down the specific exercises you need to do to help with cuts, help with route running, help with speed, etc. Guys, everything is mapped out with the exact sets and reps. Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that, and we also include examples of each drill and each exercise. We also include a 50-minute long video in our wide receiver training package on how you guys can get recruited as a wide receiver to play at the next level, and we include a 4-week speed development workout plan. So it's one of the best things that we have to offer, guys, on our site. So check out, again, that very first link in the description below if you want to improve your skills this offseason with our elite wide receiver training package. So now, let's get to this next example here. So now, this is going to be an example where we have to run a route away from the DB's leverage. So this is a situation where a DB's inside shade, off man coverage, but we have to run a route like a 10-yard out, like a corner, maybe like a fade route. How do I go about that? Now, this is probably the more simple one. We're going to go over a harder example here in a second, but what Claypool does a great job of is attacking the DB's leverage to widen him inside and then giving him more space to the outside. Remember, guys, when we have off-man coverage, it's all about spacing for my quarterback and running a quarterback-friendly route. So remember, guys, how we said when we were running that inside breaking route, like a dig or a post, and I had this type of look. A lot of wide receivers are so comfortable just trying to get to the inside of the DB and then going. They think they have to, especially when it's an inside breaking route. But as we know, that's not the case. So you watch what Chase Claypool does here is he starts to stem this DB to the inside, and watch what the DB does. He starts to keep his leverage to the inside. So if we had to run a dig route or a post route, we know that that wouldn't work. But if we're trying to go the opposite way, like a fade, like an out, like a corner, that's what we want. We want all of this space to the outside so my quarterback has room to lead us. So anytime, guys, that we're running a route that's away from the DB's leverage, let's go attack his leverage. Let's go attack his inside hip. Let's go attack his inside shoulder. The best way to get a DB to move is make him think that you are running where he does not want you to go. And when he's inside leverage and he doesn't want you to go inside, let's make him think we're doing that. That's going to create more space for you. You'll be able to accelerate out of the break. You'll have room to separate from this DB, and it makes it easier on your quarterback. So what have we learned to recap, fellas? If you have a route, I would say anywhere from about 8 to 10 yards, right? 8 to 10 yards is what we're focusing on today. If the route is towards the DB's leverage, you want to attack his opposite shoulder and opposite hip. If the route is away from the DB's leverage, attack his inside shoulder and inside hip, aka his leverage, to get him to keep his leverage for more spacing to the outsides. All about spacing after you make that cut, okay? So now, next example is going to be from Hunter Renfrow. Now, this route is a little bit unique because it's outside shade, off-man coverage, and he has to run a 10-yard out route. So now this is a little bit opposite, right? Now this is a lot like that dig route. Remember, we have to run a dig route versus inside shade off-man. What do we want to do? We want to attack his inside shoulder, inside hip to try to get him to flip open to a fade, and I slip underneath. So if we had to run a 10-yard out route versus this outside shade guy, it'd be the opposite, right? I would attack his inside shoulder, inside hip. My goal is to get him to flip, and then I slip back underneath on an out. It's really the same thing, just the opposite way. However, this situation is a little bit unique because this is the red zone. So your move that you use at the top of the route needs to change a little bit. Because in the red zone, guys, if you just run as hard as you can, put your head down, take long strides, have good body language, and you just go up this DB's inside shoulder and inside hip, that's great. And that might get him to move a little bit, but he's not threatened by the deep fade in the red zone. He's threatened more so by a quick inside route because that's what offenses love to beat defenses with in the red zone. So watch what Hunter Renfrow does here. He attacks this DB's outside shoulder and outside hip, but he uses a rocker step. Now, he stumbles on the move, absolutely. Obviously, we want to try to keep my feet, but you see the amount of space that he gave the quarterback to lead him. That is what we need, you guys. So let me rewind this real quick. So remember, guys, if the DB's outside shade, doesn't want you to go outside. A lot of guys on out routes, on corner routes, and a fade route's a little different because sometimes you have a mandatory outside release. But when I have to run this out route, so many guys just want to get to here of the DB. Let's get to the outside so we could just break and it's a smooth break, right? And they want it to be a path of least resistance. We do want the path of least resistance, but we got to make it a quarterback-friendly route. So if we just force my route to the outside, DB will keep that leverage, and even if you break it off, you have a sideline right there, guys. You have limited space. We don't have all the space in the world. So that's why we want to attack this inside shoulder and inside hip. Now, a rocker step is a great way to make this DB think we are running a post route, a dig route, something quick over the middle, but we're still maintaining that space to the outside by not running to the outside of the DB. So a rocker step is where you step in the direction that you're going first. If I'm running an out route, I'm stepping to the out first. It's essentially a 1-2 at the break. So we go out, fake back in, get this DB to jump, and again, we're attacking that inside shoulder and hip, and when we get him to jump, now we have space. Now we can accelerate. The ball is going to be thrown here. It is a race between you and the DB to that ball. And whoever wins that race is going to win the route. So that's a textbook route there from Hunter Renfrow. So remember, guys, to recap, if we have a route that is to the leverage of a DB, we want to attack a shoulder and a hip. If we have a route that is away from the leverage of the DB, let's attack that leverage. Let's attack the midline, or let's attack the midline of his body. And then if we're in the red zone, me attacking him with speed is not going to fly. It's going to be more so me using some type of move and some type of creativity at the top of the route to create separation. Great example of that here from Hunter Renfrow.